Hello everybody. We are tonight going to be talking about the additive property of equality with signed fractions. Um, this is a lot of words to say that we are going to be solving for a variable, and this time we have fractions, and there might be some negatives and positives thrown in there, okay? I know this is a very long title, but don't get intimidated, okay? So first off, we are just solving for W and then simplifying. As usual, anytime we have an equal sign and we are solving for a variable, we are going to draw that line right down the middle. And as usual, we notice that on our left-hand side, our variable sits over there. So I'm just going to write it down at the bottom, and I am going to use an opposite operation to remove everything that is not the variable and scooch it over to the other side, okay? So first thing, we have a plus 1/4, and the opposite operation of a positive 1/4 is we're gonna subtract 1/4. We're gonna take away 1/4, okay? We're gonna do that to both sides. As always, we go ahead and draw that horizontal line, and we know that a positive 1/4 and a negative 1/4, that's going to be 0. We are left with just a W, okay? Over on our right-hand side now, we're going to rewrite everything down below. Now, we do know that these two are like terms. They have no variables. They are both fractions with nothing else besides numbers, so we know that we can combine these like terms. However, thinking back to our first few videos when we were talking about fractions, we remember that anytime we are adding or subtracting fractions from one another, our denominators need to be the same. We need to have common denominators. We cannot just take -3/8 minus 1/4. Can't just do that right off the bat. So to find a common denominator, I know that 4 goes into 8. So I know it goes into 8 twice. So I'm going to multiply my numerator and my denominator by 2 to create that equivalent fraction, okay? So -3/8 minus 1 times 2, which is 2, and 4 times 2, which is 8. Now we have equivalent fractions. And I'm going to, again, W is equal. Now I am going to do this subtraction here. Now I want us to remember that we already are starting to the left of 0. We are already starting at a negative number, okay? So -3/8 minus 2/8, -3 minus 2 is -5. That denominator stays the same, and we end up with -5/8, okay? Again, keeping in mind using that opposite operations and then throwing in some of that fraction math. Awesome. Let's go ahead and do one more example here. This time, we are going to be solving for x and then remembering to simplify. Our equation this time is x minus 7/8 is equal to -1/4. Okay? So first things first, always draw that vertical line down our equal sign. And I know, again, this x, there's only one instance of that x, so I'm just going to write it down at the bottom. And anything that is not an x, I need to move it over to the other side. Again, this is a -7/8, so I'm going to go ahead and do the opposite and get a positive 7/8. And anything I do to one side, I do to the other. Okay? Always run it out of room. Over here, we end up with no more 7/8. It is 0, and we are only left with that x brought down. Now, I'm going to bring down everything over here. I'm going to bring down everything over here, and again, we're running into the same issue where the denominators are not the same. So I know I need to find a common denominator, and just like in the last problem, I'm going to go ahead and multiply both my numerator and my denominator by 2 because I know that 4 times 2 is equal to 8. I don't have to change this fraction at all. I can just multiply this one into this one. Okay, finding that equivalent fraction, negative 2 times 1 is 2, and 2 times 4 is 8, plus 7 over ace. That's what x is equal to. And now we are again starting to the left of 0 on our number line, imaginary number line, at negative 2 ace, but we're adding 7 ace to it. Negative 2 plus 7 is a positive 5, and that denominator stays the same. We end up with a simplified fraction. And one thing I didn't point out in my previous example, and I'll talk about here as well, is that this is already simplified. I cannot simplify 5 ace any further because there is nothing that goes both into 5 and 8 except for 1. So it is as small as it can be, okay? Thank you guys so much. I hope you have a good night. I'll talk to you later.